So what do you think the threat is, Ewan, from climate change?
I think the threat from climate change is just a complete sort of destruction of our way of life. I mean, food sources can be damaged by climate change all over the world because we live in a globalized economy nowadays. The Isle of Man isn't self-sufficient, so we rely on food from other places, and climate change can severely affect that. On top of that, it can be destruction of habitat for multiple different species, and also another one, and it's left my head. Destruction of property as well. Places on the Isle of Man, like the QEII with the coastal erosion. I feel like obviously higher water levels are going to do more damage to QEII more quickly, and the Isle of Man's also flood prone in other places like Laxey.
Okay, Ori, sitting there, what do you think of climate extinction? What do you think of the climate emergency?
I believe that it is one of the biggest problems humanity has faced, but I believe there are certain ways of going around it which currently aren't being executed properly. So I feel like Extinction Rebellion is not the way forward, and I believe in strikes, but not in school. Like, you do it, but don't damage your own education through it.
Are you going to university in September?
Yeah.
Where are you going?
Hopefully York, to study chemistry.
Okay, and have you ever thought of going into politics at all?
I have. I did a week's work experience at the Clerk of Tynwald's office in Year 10.
Right.
It's just, I feel that change can be made, but there's ways about going around it that are more effective than, for example, Greta, because you've got a way. There are viable alternatives to making change, and they're not always.
Would you live in Peel?
No, I live in Kirkmichael.
Okay, who's your MHK?
Alfred Cannon and Tim Baker.
Okay, have you met them at all?
I've bumped into Alfred Cannon. I haven't spoken to either of them, but.
So possibly an MHK in the future, do you think?
Probably not, but I'm not. I'm open to the idea.
Okay, Jasmine, what do you think of the climate extinction thing?
I think it is a good thing because obviously, like, action needs to be taken. But so Greta, I think she's a bit extreme with what she's doing. But I know that like recently she's said that she wants to do a social media strike instead, which I probably think is a better thing to do instead of like going to countries and striking.
And Holly, what do you think?
I kind of agree with Jasmine, but I also think that Trump needs to come to the realisation that it is a real thing and that he needs to stop being so in denial about it all.
What do you think of President Trump?
I think he's all right. He's not the best one to be in.
I mean, you probably, how old are you now?
18.
Okay, so you've only kind of known President Trump. Who was the president before him?
Obama.
Do you remember much about Obama at all?
Yeah.
No.
I liked him as a president. I thought he did well and did a lot for America.
Who's your MHK on the island, by the way?
Oh. I do know, but
who's the Chief Minister, Holly?
Howard Quayle.
Oh, that's good as well.
Yeah.
And here's Alex Corrin as
Hello.
well. Alex, are you in Extinction Rebellion? Do you take part in it at all?
No, not really. It wouldn't really come to me to wait. I don't know. No.
And what are you going to university in September?
Yeah, well, I've applied for uni, but we'll see.
Whereabouts do you hope to go?
Probably the Hope, the Hope.
Okay, and what do you want to read? What will you be studying?
Primary school teaching, hopefully.
Oh, you want to be a teacher?
Yeah.
On the Isle of Man or elsewhere, do you think?
On the island, probably.
Okay, where did you go to school?
School Valagil. I went to the primary school, but then I did work experience at the Buchan School in Castletown for 2 weeks, which I loved. So, yeah.
Okay, do you speak Manx?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No.
So, do you live in Peel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Recently.
Recently?
Yeah.
Where were you before?
Union Mills.
Okay,
Then we moved to
but
Peel.
there's more nightlife in Peel than there was in Union Mills,
Yeah,
I guess.
definitely. Yeah, got the creek, the grill.
Oh, what's the best place in Peel at night time?
Where?
Yeah, what is it? Yeah, where is it?
Oh, I don't know. Probably the creek.
The
yeah.
creek?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's so good about the creek?
Well, it's just the creek, isn't it? It's just really good.
There's some music on there.
Yeah,
is
you
it?
get bands and stuff.
Okay. Alice is there as well. Alice, what are you studying? What do you hoping to go to university at all?
Yes, I'd like to go to university. I've had an offer from Oxford to study classical archaeology and
Oh,
ancient
which
history.
college?
Lincoln College.
Okay. Classical.
Classical archaeology and ancient history.
Okay. And have you followed that much on the Isle of Man? Have you been to any
Yes.
digs and what have you?
Yes, I have. I've been to a few digs on Knockhalu, doing some contemporary archaeology up at the internment camp. I've volunteered for Access Heritage and done work experience there. And I've been fairly active in research history.
Yeah. What sort of Manx history are you interested in?
I'm interested in perhaps late Neolithic, Iron Age, occasionally Stone Age.
What's the
Mesolithic.
What's the best spot on the Isle of Man for Neolithic?
Oh, it's a difficult one. There's an awful lot of really interesting places. I can't quite remember. I can't quite remember where it is, but there's a place called, I think it's called Castleinard. It's like the King's Stone, and it's this huge lump of like quartz, and it's amazing. It's really worth a visit.
Okay, when you hopefully if you get to Oxford, when you qualify, when you get your degree, what will you want to do?
I'm not entirely sure actually. I'd quite like to go into higher education, maybe do a bit of practical archaeology, or perhaps just become a teacher and teach at a secondary school. There's quite a lot of things I'd like to do.
Okay, Ben's with us as well. Ben's in mourning at the moment because you're a Liverpool fan, yeah?
Absolutely. I'm not the hugest one, I'll admit.
What happened last night?
Well, it was all going well, at least in my eyes. Extra time hit and disaster struck. So,
do you think they're going to win the Premier League?
I think it's a given at this point in time.
Yeah.
So, not too worried about that. One thing I am worried about, though, is the coronavirus. In terms of, fan attendance at games, whether they'll be able to have fans or not.
It was interesting last night because Liverpool had a full house and Paris Saint-Germain was empty. They played in front of an empty stadium, didn't they? And I think it was Guardiola said he'd rather everybody there. Do you think that's right?
I think so, especially because you have to think about the impact an audience can have on a match. And in a sense, football matches are about the audience. And, if you've got no one there, it's essentially, it's like training almost. And there's no real purpose to it. And especially the drive it gives the players. I know it's very important to them. Grounds are known for their fans. Yeah. And to play with that, it's almost as if you're taking the soul out of the stadium.
It's weird how this coronavirus has spiralled and is affecting people in ways that, a couple of months ago we'd never thought about.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because people see it on the news and you think, oh, it won't affect me, but they don't, perhaps they didn't understand or they wouldn't expect. I know I wouldn't have expected it to get to the situation it's in, despite, on the global scale, the relatively small number of cases, the financial impact has had, FTSE 100 going down, Dow Jones saying it's a bear market now.
So does coronavirus, does it bother you on a daily basis? Do you think
I'm personally not worried. I am quite worried for the Isle of Man population if it does come over here, because I know we have a very elderly population, and in Italy they have a quite high elderly population, and that's why their fatality rate or the mortality rate, I can't remember which one's which, is quite high compared to the rest of the world. Yeah. So I'd be scared about the impact that would have on the elderly here and keeping them safe. So I'm quite reserved in the fact that, we're a small island, relatively few, I think it's 25 cases have been tested, 0 have come back positive. Yeah. I'm glad that that's the case, and I'd wish it to stay that way. But if it does hit, I'd be very, very scared for the, the elderly population, making sure that there's precautions.
Are you going to university in September?
Yeah, I'm hoping to actually go to York, the same as Ori, to study history and politics.
History and politics is a potent combination. What are you hoping to do?
I think doing a conversion into law afterwards. I chose history and politics mainly for the possibility to go into different routes afterwards. I didn't want to keep myself too closed off. Yeah. So law, teaching, civil service, anything really.
Do you get much guidance from QE2 into where your degree may lead?
I'd say, I'm not too sure. I think with the process, for example, helping us, come to, especially with subjects, my teachers. So the influence they have, obviously my history teachers would have done a history degree, telling me all about their degree and what they do, and then with the application process, making sure we do all the right research. But in terms of actually picking the degree, for me, that it's a personal decision. For a lot of people, there's no pressure in a sense. If that's, I guess that's kind of the essence of your question.
Yeah, I just wonder whether you choose the degree because you obviously enjoy the subject, or whether you can see a career the other side of it.
I know for me it was both. I know for a lot of people it's more, they seek more vocational degrees such as medicine or dentistry or veterinary medicine as well. There's a vocation immediately after that. For me it was kind of a mixture of both. History and politics is what it is on the tin. There isn't essentially something you go on afterwards. So in that sense, I chose it mainly because it's something I enjoy, and if I'm doing something I enjoy, I'm going to perform a lot better because.
Sure.
I want to do as best as I can. If I'm doing something I don't enjoy, it's not really possible.
It's the way to live it. Roman, as well. What do you study? Where are you hoping to go to, Roman?
Well, if I did get into higher education, I've got my eyes on York as well. That looks quite good.
Okay. Are you a climate network at all?
No, I'm not.
Do you care about global warming? Does it bother you on a daily basis?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
What do you think that we should be doing?
I don't think we can do anything.
On the Isle of Man?
I don't think, well, the people in general, I don't think we can, because really it's about governments and it's about the companies, like Coca-Cola, governments in China, America, India.
Because they often say, we're on the Isle of Man, we can't do much because we're a tiny population, and that people like Greta should be going to China and India and telling them, schooling them what to do.
Well, it depends whether they'll listen. I don't know whether they will or not.
Yeah.
I think she's going about the world. She's telling people.
Well, it's amazing that nobody had ever heard of her up until, a year and a bit ago, and suddenly she's one of the most famous people in the world. She's doing something right, isn't she?
Well, she's spreading a message, yeah, and the media like to put that out there, and people like to listen to that. I think it's mostly for people's own sake that they're morally taking on a protest against this, rather than the actual effect it has on the world.
Oh, I see. You mean it makes them feel good?
Yeah, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that we have a duty that are bad, even if it might not have any real impact. We tell ourselves that we're doing something against it.
Right. So in telling yourself, what does that do for yourself? Or how does it make you feel?
Well, it reminds you that you're not part of it, essentially, because it's easy to be complicit. In sort of the society we're in, we buy our Coca-Cola bottles and we throw them away, and it's easy to be complicit in it. If we take part in these protests and we separate ourselves from that, then we can we can get back a bit of our own identity. If that makes any sense.
It makes complete sense to me, so I'm just trying to process that. That was probably the best thing I've heard all day. And I've been in 2 management meetings as well.
Oh, wow.
Good to see you. Right, we're live at QE2. We're going to be back in a moment. I'm going to process what Roman just said. Back at QE2 in a moment.